Shalum. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Rose family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I am compelled to present before an awakening nation. My brothers and sisters, this is the 48th installment of White Rose family. And I tend to follow a sequence where with each color that you see, if you've been following me, you would see that it can be related to the purpose of one of the 7 feast times. Now, is this something that I am ordered to do? I cannot say. Is it something I am permitted to do? I believe so. It can help people understand the various purposes of the feast days. And if you listen to previous recordings, if you go back, you will see that there's a definition. There's a purpose in the feast days beyond just gathering, eating, and socializing. And blue is a color that I'm compelled to use to represent the word of the Almighty Father. For if you look at the feast days, the first one being Passover, we've come out of darkness and made alive by following the instructions of the Almighty Father. And now, after Passover, you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It is a time where we must discern between good and evil, between right and wrong. And each feast day has an embedded purpose, my brothers and sisters. Blue, I have been compelled to believe, can represent water. And water is akin to the word of the Almighty Father. And we must, once we come to recognize the life in Yahusha Mashyach as a result of being drawn to him by the Almighty Father Yahuah, it is important for us to seek to discern his voice, his words, to study and pray and seek to witness his scriptures come alive as he makes them so. My brothers and sisters, in this segment, I want to address the matter of end times. They are beginning to get intense, and more people are concerned with whether there would be a rapture or at what point will we be gathered. There will be no pre-tribulation rapture. This segment is to address the issue of all the different camps, fellowships, communities, leadership groups that all profess to seek to do the will of the Almighty Father. But more than that, those who are drawn by the Almighty Father to Yahusha Mashiach. Have you heard your leader, your pastor, your shepherd, the most influential one that you follow, or if you are a leader, are you spreading the word of what are the criteria to look for as Yashar'al began to come together and merge? Let's say your community, your camp, your fellowship. Have you discussed how you will merge with others as Yashar'al began to come together in unity? Have you discussed what transformation processes will take place? How you must adjust and adapt to coming together in larger groups? Have you discussed how to be a part of millions that will be gathered from the 4 corners of the earth? Or have you encapsulated your fellowship, your group, under your control, quote unquote? If this is the case, beware, for discipline come, my brothers and sisters. Discipline that will lead to bringing about the unity that is required for the 144,000 and great multitude, as mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter, to come together. In this segment, I want to bring to mind things that are necessary. And one thing for sure, there are things, there are details, there are processes for connecting living orders by the Almighty Father Yahuah. But before I get into this with scripture, let me read the following, my brothers and sisters. The information contained in White Rose family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashiach. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under age 16 years of age due to its content. And that is to be compliant with the media platforms that I use, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake, all that the Most High have to be said will find the ears that it's designed to find. But let me continue. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence in or action that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Also be advised, I am not affiliated with any other ministries with similar names. With that said, let's press on. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, connecting living orders. There are multiple orders coming to each of us. We are many members, but yet one body. The reality and understanding what that is will come to be in these end times. Yashar'al, if we look around, there's much havoc that have already begun. The elements that will bring about forced migrations to fulfill the closing of the scroll have begun. Come, O Yashar'al, let us wake up to the realities that there is a living Almighty One, and all that we say we believe is getting ready to be put to the test before the eyes of those who are unlearned and undiscerning. Let's move into this, O Yashar'al. Consider these words. Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 and 8. Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 and 8. You see, my brothers and sisters, movement requires structure, leadership, and connecting living orders. In other words, orders that come down from the Almighty Father, whether it be through one individual or two, they will be spread throughout the flock, throughout those that are called by the Almighty Father. And we will see structure come as a result of set-apart leaders. Any leader who tell you anything differently, my brothers and sisters, any leader who quote-unquote try to protect their flock, their community or communities, their fellowships, without regards to the joining together of the set-apart ones of Yahuah, is sadly mistaken to think that it's about the labels that they have put on their ministry. Consider Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 and 8. It reads, And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all these words which Yahuah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuah has spoken we shall do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahuah. My brothers and sisters, notice that Moshe spoke to the elders. Would you consider the elders to be among the leaders? I believe so. And it said, all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuah has spoken we shall do. You see, how many people have read this passage and heard their teacher, Moray, pastor, bishop, bring to light that these elders had to be able to discern that what Moshe was relaying to them, that Yahuah had said, what Yahuah had said, they were wise enough to discern that what Moshe was saying was truthful. So there was a degree of discernment. There was a degree of abilities being demonstrated to recognize when Yahuah has delivered a message to a person, in this case, Moshe. So discernment is present throughout the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, where those who had an ear to hear heard the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah speak through one of his leaders, his chosen leaders. Consider this, my brothers and sisters, as I continue. Consider the numbers for the first Exodus. Let me just give a snippet, or an example, or just a little bit. Come with me to Exodus 12th chapter, verse 37 and 38. Back over, we was in Exodus 19 at first, 19, 7 and 8. But I want you to backtrack to Exodus chapter 12, verse 37 and 38. Consider these words. And the children of Yashar'al set out from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones, and A mixed multitude went up with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. I just want to give you a piece of information as it relates to the first Exodus. We see the specific number of 600,000 men on foot, but we also see a mixed multitude. If you go to Revelation 7 chapter, you will see that it too mentions about 144,000. So it talks about a group of Hebrews, Abrahym, that are sealed and gathered together. And in the 9th verse of the 7th chapter, it talks about a great multitude of many nations, kindreds, and tongues. You see, my brothers and sisters, just as we witnessed the first Exodus, so will we witness similarities in the final Exodus. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, what say you? Are you prepared to journey to the place where the Almighty Father would have us to go? Are you prepared to move into position if you are one that would help guard the pathway for those that are gathered from the four corners of the earth? Are you prepared to step up and speak to those that are in your midst, those whom the Father, Almighty Father, have granted life, physical life, to be among you or around you? If you are not one gathered from the four corners of the earth, but one who is ordered to be in a specific place at a specific time that will face death for Yahusha's name. Are you one who's looking to identify what the Spirit of Yahuah is refining you and disciplining you to do? Are you ready to identify the task before you? Connecting living orders mean there will be orders you would be given, and someone other than yourself will be able to confirm or reaffirm the orders coming from the Almighty Father. You see, where there are two or more witnesses, we will recognize that the presence of the Most High. And it's not about just taking those words and saying, well, it's two or more of us, so hey, you got to do what's going on, or we all confirm. We must realize that there are the wicked ones and there are the set-apart ones. There are the obedient versus the disobedient. Connecting living orders, my brothers and sisters. What say you? Are we hearing words going forth of how we will begin to merge with one another and come together in mass numbers? You see, there are many teachers that are quick to say it's a remnant, it's a remnant. They won't use a specific number, nor will I. But they fail to recognize that that remnant would be millions of individuals drawn by the Almighty Father. But when compared to those that are totally living on the planet, it will be a remnant. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. Consider these words for the final Exodus that will have some similarities to the first Exodus. Consider these words. And I can say greater Exodus or final Exodus. Come with me, my brothers and sisters. There's much to consider. I've read this before, Isaiah 11:12. And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. My brothers and sisters, this is not just as simple as saying it, but there is a lot of activity going on as we witness this come to be. That was Isaiah 11:12. Isaiah 43:5-7 reads, do not fear, for I am with you. Have you given any thought to why he said don't fear? Could it be the famine, pestilent diseases? Could it be the wars in the world? Could it be earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic activities? Could it be that he's saying, do not fear all that is going before, because I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west? Could it be this is why he's saying don't fear? Have you ever given thought? He goes on to say, I shall say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar, my daughters from the ends of the earth. All those who are called by my name, whom I have created and formed, even made for my esteem. He said his name, my brothers and sisters. There's a lot of variant pronunciations of the name of the Almighty Father. Seek to discern the name that he is speaking of, the name that he references. For not all will be coming together, still using many different names. We will witness, my brothers and sisters, that the Almighty Father Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha, we will witness the Spirit of Yahusha guide us and bring us under one banner, under one name for that nation, and that set-apart nation, that name will be Yashar'al. In Revelation 7th chapter, the 12 tribes of Yashar'al that are referenced in the 7th chapter, if you look in the beginning, one of the 12 sons of Yashar'al was Dan. Dan went to idol worship. Dan is replaced with the tribe of Manasseh. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, look at the 12 tribes mentioned in Revelation 7th chapter. My brothers and sisters, all that come together in unity will learn to yield to the name of the Almighty Father and realize that no man can come unto the Father Yahuah except by Yahusha Mashyach. And Yahusha means Yah salvation, or Yah save, Yahuah saves. You see, my brothers and sisters, we will witness extreme humbling times, and those that will rise up in the strength and power of set apartness will do so under one name. There's more to consider, my brothers and sisters. In the final Exodus, we see, my brothers and sisters, in Revelation 7th chapter, verse 4, I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 sealed out of the tribe, all the tribes of the children of Yashar'al. So understand here, my brothers and sisters, there are individuals who will come to identify the specific tribe that they are to represent, those that will be among the 144,000. And once the 144,000 come together with a great multitude, together they will all be under one banner of Yashar'al. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 and 10, as I mentioned, there is a great crowd which no one is able to count, of all nations, tribes, people, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. If you read the entire chapter, you will see, my brothers and sisters, it talks about these are those that came out of the great tribulation. This consists of Hebrews and Gentiles, Abrahym and Goym. Goym just means other nations, my brothers and sisters. These are those that seek to do the will of the Almighty Father that will come together, and they will represent the ranks of individuals who will be considered part of the final Exodus. Yashar'al, or Yashar'al, it is important that we're able, it is so important that we're able to recognize the need, my brothers and sisters, the need to connect living orders, not suggestions. You see, my brothers and sisters, there are many of us that we will sit here, we'll talk, we'll be in a fellowship. We go through, many of us have adopted the same ritualistic behavior that we see in churches. Yes, I said churches. Search the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, and look at the dynamics of fellowship. Look at the dynamics of when time to praise and worship. Look at the dynamics of what took place when preachings and teachings went forth. Understand the difference, my brothers and sisters. We must begin to receive instructions and teachings that equip us with the strength and fortitude that help us uncover the power and might of the inward man, so that we're able to connect the instructions that's coming, so that we're able to connect with like-minded individuals that are being drawn by the Almighty Father to Yahusha Mashyach. We must consider these things as end times ramp up, regardless of all that is going on, regardless of widespread destruction, regardless of deaths, funerals, regardless of marriages and celebratory anniversaries. We must learn to look towards the face of the Almighty Father and move through it all. When the sense of urgency comes, we must still look towards the Almighty Father to identify what we must do, O Yashar'al. End times are here. Begin asking questions. Begin discussions. Don't wait. Don't find yourself trapped into a city, a state, a country. Don't find yourself quarantined. The scriptures talk about famine and pestilence. How many people thought that this may even mean being quarantined? Move to where you're supposed to be, O Yashar'al. And for some of you, prepare to move where you're supposed to be. There will be intermittent movement. There will be forced migrations. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, the realities of end times are before us. Consider the following. I know, my brothers and sisters, that there are many of us who ask the question and wonder, how are we going to come together? Some of us are concerned, what are we going to do when Yahusha Mashyach returns? What about the 1,000 years? We want to jump to the finale. We want to jump to Resurrection Day and get away from this poisonous and contaminated world that we have neglected. But we fail to recognize the details and processes that will occur before such time. For millions to come together, my brothers and sisters, we must identify every individual that is drawn by the Almighty Father, makes up a member of one body. Consider Ephesians 4th chapter. I've read it before. It's the chapter that some will say, that's the chapter about the gifts. Hear me clearly, O Yashar'al. Ephesians 4:11-16. And he himself gave some as emissaries, and some as prophets, and some as evangelists, and some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set apart ones, to the work of service, to a building up of the body of the Messiah, until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of the Almighty One, to a perfect man, excuse me, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah, so that we should no longer be children tossed and borne about every wind of teaching by the trickery of men and cleverness unto craftiness of leading astray, but maintaining the truth in love, we grow up in all respects into him who is the head, Messiah, for whom the entire body joined and knit together. Let me say that again. The entire body joined and knit together by whatever joint supply, by what every joint supplies, according to the working by which each part does its share, causes growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Notice it says every joint supplies according to the workings by which each part does its share. You see, and it's not just talking about prophets and evangelists, bishops, and mores. Every one of us have a duty. We have a responsibility, my brothers and sisters. You may find yourself, Yashar'al, if you haven't given thought at this point, my brothers and sisters, it's time to begin to pray and seek to identify the many gifts that the Most High has given you. You have found favor by receiving breath and life among a time that many wish they would be seen. Why? Because there's a lot of evidence that proves the realities of the existence of the Almighty Father Yahuah, that proves that his plan is unfolding just as he set it out to be. Yashar'al, it's time to educate our children. It's time to re-educate those who have been indoctrinated with historical teachings that are not lined up with the scriptures, that have some truth but not all that is necessary to bringing them into obedience. It's time for us to recognize that the Spirit of Yahuah sent in Yahusha's name to comfort us and teach us. It's necessary for us to grow in maturity, for us to begin to come together in unity. Look at your position of belief right now, my brothers and sisters, and ask yourself, do you believe with the confidence that you will lay your life down for that which you stand for? If not, my brothers and sisters, seek to discern the instructions that the Most High has for you to reveal that you are indeed equipped with the power and might that he has given you through his Spirit. And that will help guide you, me, us, Yashar'al, into unity. We will learn to set our egos and our prides aside. We will learn to bring our physical emotions, our mental emotions, and our physical actions into subjection to the obedience of the Almighty Father in the name of Yahusha. Those that will, not maybe, will be part of end-time prophecies as it relates to being gathered from the four corners of the earth, as it relates to dying for Yahusha's name, as it relates to getting in position to where the Most High would have you to be, to echo his final words to those that are around you, if you are not one gathered from the four corners of the earth. You see, many people don't want to talk about those realities. They want to just say we are going to be saved and gathered from the four corners of the earth. So many want to dismiss that there will be a gathering from the four corners before the physical return of Yahusha Mashyach. I'm here to tell you, my brothers and sisters, the realities are that gathering will take place before Yahusha's physical return. Make no mistake, Yashar'al, connecting living orders is viable, it's important, it's critical. Consider this, O Yashar'al. You know, many people don't want to talk about details. End time conditions are ramping up. Look around. And what you see my brothers and sisters, in the political arena, what you see in the government arena is purely theater. You see, my brothers and sisters, the world leaders know the conditions of the world. The world leaders know that we are heading to, for all practical and natural reasons, we are heading to extinction. The pollution, the neglect that we have caused on this planet will bring the extinction of man. It once was said that this would be 50 years or 100 years. It started with 100 years, then within 50 years. Now there's even, believe it or not, there's even some talk and chatter among political leaders and governmental leaders and bodies that we only have 10 to 12 years. Some will throw in the line to reverse the effects of climate change. But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, we can shout hallelujah, for there is a plan, the plan of the Almighty Father, and it brings extinction to these earthen vessels. What do you think it is on Resurrection Day when it talks about flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom or the sovereignty of Yahuah? What do you think that is when it talks about putting off the corruptible bodies and putting on the incorruptible? That's the extinction of man as we know it. The words may be different, but the reality and function is the same. These earthen vessels will return to the earth from which it came. Yashar'al, connecting living orders. Why? What will we face in the coming of days? I submit to you, end time conditions is something that cannot be avoided. The need to improve our communications among one another is paramount. It's vital. It's important. It's needed. We will begin to discern when to speak and when to be silent. We will understand what communications that are important, our brothers and sisters. Movement. I've spoken on it often and will continue. There will be times when we will be divided physically, but those that are called together will end up together, drawn by the Almighty Father to do whatever it is he has tasked us to do. And those that will be drawn from the four corners of the earth, we will witness people of many races, nationalities, who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father with many different languages. And we will learn how to communicate the priority messages that are necessary. And we will understand how to interpret. the actions, the words from one another as they are influenced by the Almighty Father. Leadership, there will be leadership, there will be structure. This brings about discipline, the discipline to purge those that we are ordered to remove from our presence, and the discipline to embrace and receive those who may not look like us, who may be a stranger to us, but are brought to our charge by the Almighty Father. There will be structure. There will be resources and supplies. It may not be as what we see it to be, but all that is necessary to fulfill what the Most High has promised. Consider the first Exodus. They had manna, they had quail. They left with livestock and consumed it. You see, so resources and supplies. Transportation requires resources and supplies, fuel to move about, vehicles, whether it be a car, train, or plane, or boat. And as I mentioned, I believe that there will be mass number of set-apart children that will be gathered on container ships on the Western Hemisphere to head towards the Promised Land. And I believe that there are other brothers and sisters that will be gathered from other nationalities, from other countries, from other geographic locations, as we fulfill the gathering from the four corners of the earth. We will learn, my brothers and sisters, adjustments are mandatory. What say you? Are you hearing discussions of how to adjust, how to adapt to end times that are ramping up before us? There will be times and schedules, my brothers and sisters. I cannot stress enough, my brothers and sisters, end times will prove to demand correct communications. While we are busy, my brothers and sisters, being entertained in some of these fellowships, while we are busy consuming time and breath on trying to defend ourselves because of someone talking about us, while we are wasting time trying to defend our egos, our feelings, or trying to hoard our particular communities and prop the communities up versus Yahusha Mashyach, discipline is knocking at the door. Discipline will prove to bring about physical, mental, and spiritual weakness. In famine and pestilence and extreme humbling times, we will find ourselves facing weak times. And in that weakness, we will rise up in the strength and fortitude and the power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. Those who must and will fulfill end time prophecies. You see, my brothers and sisters, for so long, so many beliefs have said that you have the liberty to do whatever you want to do. It just comes with a consequence or benefits. But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, end time prophecies will come to be, not a maybe. And the Most High knows exactly the discipline to exact and execute on his children for us to obey him to fulfill what he has promised. Our communications will get better. Ask yourselves, when you reach someone that has a different position on the teachings of the Almighty Father, ask yourself, are the teachings that you have been indoctrinated to or you have embraced, are you willing to put your life on the line for that? For I know I will meet many that I will be charged to let them know that's wrong, that's not correct. This is wrong, that's not correct. As it relates to when the Shabbat starts, when it begins and ends, as it relates to how we should govern ourselves, as it relates to how we dress, how we call upon the name of the Father. There are many do's and don'ts, but make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, discipline come. Our communication will come to be correct as we learn to connect living orders. Let me continue, my brothers and sisters. Remember, some will, again, I say some will, not maybe, but will leave many and much behind. This is real, my brothers and sisters. Consider this, and I've read it before, but I'm going to read it again. For some of you, this may be the first time. Matthew chapter 19, verse 29 and 30 reads, and everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands, for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. But many who are first shall be last, and the last first. Yashar'al. This is real. I cannot stress enough how real these things are. But I must ask you, are you confident with your leadership and or fellowship? Or whether you use the word camp, group, family. Are you confident in the information that is going before you? Are you a part of a group that's just reading and regurgitating the text over and over again? Are you among those who are still debating and arguing over what is so-called the Old Testament and New Testament? Are you spending time saying that you're denying the Mashyach when the Almighty Father may be drawing you? And I say maybe. Why? Because there are those among us who were at one point unlearned, undiscerning, who got caught up with these individuals who teach that there's no such thing as the Mashyach, Yahusha, that was fabricated. But do you not think that the Almighty Father knows those who are his sheep? Do you not think that the Almighty Father will draw us all from all these different false teachings? Have you not come to the grips that the discipline that is promised from the Almighty Father? And I say to you, if you're not sure of the dynamics of the discipline, read Hebrews 12th chapter, as well as Revelation 3:19. For whom the Almighty Father loves, he disciplines. And in that discipline comes individuals from many different beliefs and many different walks of life who are drawn as babes and sprout. And many will grow in maturity and set apartness, and many will find themselves growing in maturity. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, a degree of confidence will come. A degree of confidence will be among those who are the chosen leaders of Yashar'al, led by the Almighty Father's Spirit in Yahusha's name. If you're not confident, my brothers and sisters, if you see compromising practices and teachings going on, it's time to reevaluate. Is this the camp? Is this the community? Am I in the right place? For those who are not in the right place at the right time will face widespread destruction and death. And there will be those that are set apart that will face destruction and physical death. But we who belong to the Almighty Father will understand to leave these earthen vessels. We have a greater life ahead of us, life immeasurable, through Yahushua Mashyach. Remember, it is written, he who seeks to gain his life will lose it, but he who loses his life for Yahusha's name will gain everlasting life. Make no mistake, all who have come to be created and existed have a place. It's either in the bosom of Abraham, it's either with Yahushua Mashyach, or everlasting damnation. But everyone has a place. These words, these messages are to those drawn by the Almighty Father Yahuah. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, that irritable experience that you're facing, that stirring, that uneasiness, that inability to sleep, you may just discover that the Spirit of Yahuah is giving you instructions to compel you to do something that he is ordering. And make no mistake, where the voice of the Spirit of the Almighty Father is, the wicked one is trying to combat and convince you otherwise. But make no mistake, O Yashar'al, he that is the Almighty One will fulfill his promises, and we will do all that is required to fulfill what is written. I ask you again, are you confident with your leadership and fellowship? If not, it's time to be that person that presents correction as guided by the Spirit of Yahusha, or be that person to leave. There may be babes among you, and when they see you leave, out of obedience, they may follow suit. You might be surprised. You may be as David, someone that is young to conquer Goliath. The Goliath might be the camp, the fellowship, the community. That leader may be functioning like a Goliath if they've stepped out of the bounds of obedience. There'll be some who will be used to exact judgment to bring about restoration and set apart leadership. And there'll be some who will make a statement to the leaders and walk away. And those who are able to bear witness, they will walk away with them. Some phenomenal things are coming, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake. There is a plan. The Most High has a plan, and it consists of instructions that are given to individual leaders who are walking in obedience, his chosen leaders. But let me ask you, do you know the plan for when conditions become extreme? Do you know what you're supposed to do if all of a sudden there was an earthquake right now, right where you are, or a tsunami and you were spared, or volcanic activity, or a bomb within physical sight, or famine and pestilence or disease? Do you know what to do? Do you know what to do if you're cut off from the person you trusted and believe will lead you? Have your leader given you instructions on what to do in the event of? Sure, we're not supposed to worry, my brothers and sisters. But when Noah built the ark, there was a plan, there was preparation. When Yashar'al left Mitzrayim, left Egypt, they gathered stuff. There were actions, there were details, there were processes. If your teacher, your more, your leader is not equipping you with the necessary instructions on what to do in the event of separation, in the event that they are not nearby to guide you, something is wrong. You see, because each of us is a vessel of the Almighty Father. Each of us have the ability to discern his voice. How many of us are familiar when Eliyahu went into the cave thinking that he was alone? And I spoke of this before. He thought he was all by himself. And he discovered in the cave, after even seeing the wind and fire, it came to the point where he discovered the voice of Yahuah, the Almighty Father. And he discovered that there were others who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, and he was ordered to leave the cave. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I did a message on the caves, and I tied it to these earthen vessels. Are you amongst Moray's teachers that are telling you, my brothers and sisters, if you find yourself alone, know that you're not? Are you finding brothers and sisters or teachers telling you that Hebrews 12:1, which talks about surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, that we are not alone, and the proof will come, O Yashar'al. It's time to identify the plan. You know, for those in many of the industrialized West, we may have experienced as children going to school something called a fire drill. And then depending on your age, it might have been a tornado drill. And unfortunately, it has come now to a drill when there's a shooter in the school. Just after children practice drills for cataclysmic conditions, fatal conditions that could come to those that are around them. We should be talking about it. We should be seeking to discern. We should be prepared to move. For movement is coming, O Yashar'al. Connecting living orders is paramount, my brothers and sisters. I cannot stress it enough. Never forget, there are plans. Plans from one component to set apartness to another component that's building up that component, that part of those who will be gathered, and then they will come together. We will see merging of individuals set apart, drawn by the Almighty Father. My brothers and sisters, plans that include having the abilities that are necessary for connecting living orders, for yielding, for subjecting ourselves to one another. Yashar'al, it is real. If you doubt these words, look around. Look around, O Yashar'al. As for White Rose family, I have been tasked to work on a plan that takes into consideration some of the challenges that we face. A plan to build up a set-apart team of leaders, vetted, proven to be chosen by the Almighty Father. Yes, just as Mashyach had the elders who discerned that he received words from the Almighty Father Yahuah, you will witness chosen leaders that will deliver messages from the Almighty Father. You will witness a team of leaders, vetted, proven to be led by the Spirit of the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name. I have a plan, my brothers and sisters, a plan that involves developing an information and resource center, both physical and virtual, to assist with the coming together of Yashar'al, to build a team of individuals who identify their skill sets, whose skill sets have been proven to be a component and necessary for the building up of Yashar'al, for the lifting up of Yahusha Mashyach. A team that will consist of individuals who will have no problems mentoring and teaching and training and developing our young and unlearned that are drawn into specific skills. A plan to purchase land in Virginia that I believe will be an exit point for Yashar'al in the coming days ahead. It will be a point where millions will come together before crossing the Atlantic Ocean. A plan that includes identifying safe zones. Identify and support these safe zones as individuals are migrated from one point to the next in the coming days. Make no mistake, movement is coming, my brothers and sisters. White Rose family will provide guidance and support for completing the journey. As the Spirit of Yahusha leads us, we will deliver all messages that we are required to do. A plan that involves providing guidance for the inner court. The inner court being the brothers and sisters of Yashar'al that are set apart, that are gathered together. That outer court, my brothers and sisters. And I'm familiar with the physical third temple that people speak of, and I'm familiar with the tabernacle and how you had the inner court and outer court. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, beyond the physical, made with hands, is the inner court life, the life of those who are set apart. And those who are not a part of Yashar'al that is set apart, make no mistake, they have their appointments. Don't concern yourself with them, my brothers and sisters. Seek to discern the brother, the sister, the family that you are being drawn to. White Rose family have a plan that will provide continuous instructions, guidance, and demonstration as we find ourselves waiting on Yahusha Mashiach's physical return. Set apart plans will contribute to deliverance, my brothers and sisters. There will be relocation and lifestyle changes. There will be those included and those left behind. And with all plans, my brothers and sisters, there's a cost. Are you not aware that we must present our bodies as a living offering before the Almighty Father? And in doing so, we seek to discern and obey what he is asking us to do. Yashar'al, that cost will come with you identifying the skills, the resources, the abilities, the finances that you've received by favor of the Almighty Father, and beginning to find an answer to why did you find favor? How were you able to come from where you were to where you are now by the favor of the Almighty Father, and for what purpose? Many of you will discover for such a time as this is a time to begin to utilize your resources, your abilities, your skills, your finances, your wealth, for the building up of the coming together of an awakening set-apart nation. It is important to know how to vet, what questions to ask, how to discern those that are being led by the Almighty Father versus those who are not. So you do not find yourself wasting your abilities, your talents, your skills, your finances on someone that is not obedient, that is not walking in the spirit of direction from the Almighty Father. I set up a Cash App, White Rose Family. I've also set up a PayPal account, and there are other means. My email is below. Email me if you believe you are one that is led to contribute towards the building up of this plan that White Rose Family is tasked to do. Email me if you are one who have a plan and you're fortunate and you're looking at ways to make that plan better, and you're just not sure how to do it, but you believe the Most High is leading you. But if you are one who's trying to lift up yourself, if you are one who are trying to be emboldened and push your own hidden agenda, make no mistake, just as the Philistines took the ark and thought that they would be powerful, took the ark of the covenant and thought they can use it for their benefit, and they faced death, and they returned what did not belong to them. The ark of the covenant was returned back. And they were so afraid, they put the ark on a cart and pushed it in a direction towards Yashar'al. And I say to you, if you are one of those leaders who want to take set apart instructions, set apart counsel, and think you can use it for your benefit, those days are coming to an end, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake, what belongs to the Most High will be delivered and used for the Most High. In the name of Yahusha, I say to you, my brothers and sisters, the time to recognize that we must use it or be prepared to lose it. For conditions will change across the face of the earth. The value of stuff we have now will come to an end. So are we using it wisely? Oh, Yashar'al, Yashar'al, the most valuable of currency among us, and you will see, will be fresh water, food, and a place of safety. And for some of us, that place of safety will be going into the bosom of Abraham, facing physical death, and leaving these earthen vessels to go back to the dirt. But for some of us, fresh water and food will be given to us to sustain these physical bodies so that we can demonstrate the Spirit of Yahuah working in us and through us one towards another until the physical return of Yahusha, until resurrection day. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, the realities of end times are before us. We can use what we have while we can, or know that the appointment to lose it draws near. Yashar'al, or Yashar'al, connecting living orders. We must identify what is set apart orders. And then we must identify how to connect these orders, my brothers and sisters. I say to you, have you given thought to the realities that's unfolding? Just think about it. We're actually witnessing it. For those of us who have stepped out of the shell of multiple distractions, for those of us have been drawn by the Almighty Father to not be so entrenched in the theater of politics and other civil matters. Yashar'al, wake up, rise up, prepare to emerge, prepare to witness those who are chosen to lead, prepare to witness times where we will shout, hallelujah, even in the times where we will weep for those left behind. We will weep for those who face physical death. But we have made a choice, and that is to worship and obey the Almighty Father Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha, I salute your power, your strength, your set-apartness, your pursuit of obedience, your pursuit of doing the will of the Almighty Father. My brother, my sister, amazing things are ahead. Phenomenal things are ahead. On that note, I say to you, you have been listening to White Rose Family. My name is Symmanayah, and this has been Connecting Living Orders. I say to you, Shalum.